This week on The Real Housewives of Atlanta.
I have been doing something positive with Dennis.
Why
Let me
did
finish.
you not? All
Where
you had to
Dennis
do was
has
say
been in the
Porsha.
studio.
I'm gonna have your baby daddy film without you knowing.
I want to stop talking to Drew about this. I literally want her to marry Dennis.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to we're going to be recapping The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 16, Episode 13. Let's get right into it. Alright, you guys, let's get into this episode. By the way, I just gotta say, they added Phaedra's tagline to the intro, and her tagline is, "I returned from the dead. Now, let's bury the past for good." I like that. I think, it makes sense, and I like it when housewives do a tagline that, kind of goes with either something that they do or whatever the case may be. So the fact that she, put like, "I returned from the dead, now let's bury the past," I thought it did a good job in kind of encapsulating Phaedra's return. So we begin the episode, we see Shamea in the garage. She has boxes and boxes of clothes and things that she's ordered that she is going to be donating to the people of Grenada when they go to their trip. And her little daughter was there with her. She's only 5 years old, so she's innocent, and she was like, she doesn't know any better, so she was like, "But this is my stuff." And it was great to see Shamea, explain to her, like, this is a donation that we're going to be giving people. It's great to teach kids about this at a young age so that they start to get it. Kelli then comes on over. She has her trunk full of water bottles, among other things. And to be honest, the whole cast came through. Porsha, Drew, Cynthia, Angela, they gave a lot. Now, Britt pulled up. Oh, Britt. She came through with a box, and the box had a few tissue boxes inside of it. She then says that someone's gonna drop off more stuff later, but Shamia's like, the truck's leaving like now. So the thing with Britt is, last week with her brunch with no food, and now her donation box with no donations, Britt, we gotta do better, because it is not a good look. She then lets the ladies know that she is very disappointed with the event planner that she had and the way that the catering was handled. I did happen to be scrolling down social media and saw that this said event planner / caterer did come out and like gave her side. I don't know what she said. I didn't watch it. I wasn't that interested, but I did see that she came out and said something. Okay, so that was that. Then we see Porsha and Drew go meet up for lunch. Trying to clear the air before the trip. Let's just talk. So Porsha, she shades Drew's hair in her confessional, but Drew says, "Listen, we could have had this conversation a long time ago." When Porsha says, "Yeah, I agree, but I do think that it would be better for me to, be more calm before talking to you. So I feel like that's a good time. But, I definitely did feel some type of way about you filming with Dennis, and, just piled up with other stuff that I was hearing and kind of some things that you were doing. It was just a lot." So Drew says, "Well, I do get how you feel, that you feel some type of way about filming with Dennis, but you did film with Ralph." Angela is the one that told Drew that Shamea and Porsha filmed with Ralph, so now she knows. Which, to be fair, Shamea was filming with Ralph, Porsha, and happened to just meet up with them. So it's different in my opinion. Yeah, she did film with him, but it's not like she went out of her way to do it. It was Shamea. Porsha just joined. Anyway, Porsha says that, things are clear now. She knows that Dennis and Drew aren't dating or anything, since, especially now, things are very clear now that she heard that Drew is dating a guy named Black. And when Drew hears this, she's like, no, that's my friend. That's a friend of mine. I wouldn't be dating anyone before getting divorced. It's a very messy divorce, so I'm not dating anyone. Let's clear that up right now. Porsha says, "Oh, well, if you say you're not dating Black, then that's cool. It's still none of my business." And then Drew hits her back with, "Well, we can talk about what is being said about you dating Future." Oh my gosh, these girls came dropping some bombs about each other. So Drew starts to get a little agitated, though. She says, "Porsha, you're going through a divorce. You're just lashing out on me." And Porsha says, "Listen, I'm not here to fight. Like, you're being very combative right now." And, Drew keeps going. She says, "Well, you're throwing out false things. Of course, I'm going to be combative because you've been the one that's been combative this whole time. You've treated me like I've done something to you." And Porsha's like, "Okay, you know what? I don't like your vibe, your energy." So she gets up and she leaves. But as Porsha is walking out the door, Drew throws some low blows. She says, "No wonder Simon doesn't want her. No wonder Shamea can't stand her. Listen, y'all, I know Porsha can be wrong, but I'm sort of team Porsha when it comes to her and Drew. I might be biased, but I just am. To Drew's credit, yes, Drew had been trying to talk to Porsha a while ago. That's true. But at the same time, beggars can't be choosers, and Porsha definitely came in with a good, calmed energy to this place. Drew didn't. And Drew, why were you throwing those low blows after Porsha left? Why didn't you say that to her face? But I will say, Drew saying, what about you dating Future? That did take me out for a second, not gonna lie. Okay, so then we see the women start to pack for the girls' trip. We see Kelli in her house. She's talking to her daughters. She will be missing the first day of school because she'll be at the trip in Grenada by then. So their uncle is going to be taking them and picking them up. The uncle is actually in the house, so Kelli goes downstairs to go talk to him and let him know, what kid goes to what school at what time and all that important information that he needs. So the uncle, his name is Lamont, he tells Kelli that he actually talked to Kelli's ex yesterday. Kelli thinks that maybe Lamont called them to, make the ex simmer down because, what we've heard, the ex is like vicious. So Lamont and Kelli's ex used to be good friends, so maybe that's why also he called him, but it didn't work. Apparently the ex is still being very demonic, really. Like, it sounds like he's kind of evil the way he's moving, and I feel so bad for Kelli and her daughters. Like, what a sorry excuse of a man. You ain't ish as a husband, and you ain't ish as a dad either. He doesn't want to step in and be their parent, which I think is so unacceptable and really sad. So then the next morning, it's the day of the trip, and the women are arriving at the airport, all of them, including Phaedra and Cynthia. Everyone seems to enjoy Phaedra. I feel like there might be some tension between Angela and Phaedra. Phaedra did throw some shade in her confessional, saying that Angela is the oldest, youngest woman she's met, which I'm not even going to say anything, but all I will say is I was shocked and still am that Angela said she was only 43. I can't believe it. So they get on the plane and they arrive to Grenada, but Mia's bags didn't come through. They stayed in Atlanta, so I would be so upset, but she's gonna get that handled and she'll get them the next day, but that sucks. And y'all, I just have to reiterate this. Y'all can say whatever y'all want, but the shade that Phaedra be throwing in those confessionals, it is hilarious. Because to me, shade is not only supposed to be shady, but it's also supposed to be funny, and Phaedra just delivers every single time. Grenada is a great country, very beautiful, full of culture, and I loved to see that all the women were happy, full of energy, and just ready to have fun. So the downside is that they're going to be rooming together, which maybe some of them kind of just wanted their own place, but it is what it is. Remember, the hosts of the trip are Shamia and Kelli. So Shamia says that, they got to get out of their comfort zones, get to know each other, whatever. Kelli and Shamia will be together, same villa. Phaedra and Britt will be sharing. Porsha and Angela, and then Cynthia and Drew will be together. Then they have to take some shots, and whatever number is at the bottom of their cup tells them what villa they get. The villa that Drew and Cynthia got happens to be one where one of the rooms has twin beds, and Cynthia and Drew arm wrestle to see who gets to have which one. They have a quick lunch. Porsha, let me tell you something about Porsha. Porsha was letting those feminine seduction spirits out with that chef. She said I'll do something very strange for a chicken wing. So everybody goes to their room. Kelli and Shamea do talk about how they're feeling, how are they feeling so far, and Shamea says that she feels uncomfortable with Drew. She calls her Drunocchio, because Drunocchio, right before they got there, she posted a picture of herself on Instagram, but the caption of the picture was entirely about Shamea, and she tagged Shamea and she said, people try to create imaginary beef. And I actually remember when this was posted in real time, but yeah, Shamea doesn't like this. She's like, there is not an imaginary beef. There is a beef because she keeps calling me a lapdog. So if you're going to be calling me a lapdog, then hell yeah, we're going to have some beef. We then see Cynthia and Drew at their place. Cynthia shares about her new boyfriend. He's younger than her. She says that he's very tall. She calls him Amsterdam, so they didn't show his face or anything. But I hope it works out because Cynthia, she don't got the best track record, so I hope it works out for her. Cynthia then asks Drew, are you dating? And here goes Drew. I'm not dating. I'm meeting people. It's good to have friends at the moment. She can never answer a yes or no question. But Drew brings up to Cynthia that she is very upset with Porsha because Porsha filmed with Drew, but I don't understand why what is good for the goose isn't also good for the gander. So then they get going. In one of the they head over to dinner. In one of the cars, Phaedra is talking to some of them about her balding bodies, which I'm sorry, I'm never going to be too cool talking about that. Like, I think it's very dark and morbid, and I don't want to talk about that. So they arrive at dinner. Britt tells the group that her and Phaedra saw a man from the balcony that was completely naked, and then Kelli says, I wonder if he's a masseuse who gives happy endings. They eat their dinner, and then after that, Kelli says that she wants to, have a reset, redirect the energy, mainly with Drew and Shamea. Shamea says, she wanted to settle things with Drew, but Drew doubled down at Britt's event and called her a lapdog multiple times. Drew says, are you forgetting that you took information back that was incorrect? That's why I called you a lapdog. Shamea says, it wasn't incorrect. You definitely did say that you could pay for Pilar's college. And at the end of the day, I don't mess with that social media fake stuff. Like, if you got something to say to me, say it to me. So, Shamea says what she's got to say. When it's Drew's turn, she then says, well, a hit dog will holler. So Shamea's like, oh my God, like, this is why we can't move forward. I'm not going to talk to anyone who's calling me a dog. And then Porsha says, Shamea doesn't want to be called a dog. She doesn't want to. Then Angela says, well, we just want Shamea to not go snitch to Porsha if we're having an intimate conversation. And I'm glad that Phaedra said, do you not think that Shamea, as Porsha's best friend, is going to tell her if there's an intimate conversation being had about her? Like, come on now. Angela says, well, Shamea, she had given us her grievances over Porsha and things like that. And then Shamea's like, no, most of the time, y'all were the ones that were bringing it up first. Porsha says, well, I think it's interesting that y'all were asking Shamea about our friendship and y'all weren't asking me anything. And then Kelly's like, well, let me ask you, Porsha, do you think you've been a good friend to Shamea? But Porsha simply says, me and Shamea have talked. We're good. We moved on. Like, we good. So Kelly's like, okay, that's great. So I'm glad as a group we can squash that topic, but let's get to Drew. Because I do have to say, Drew, that you have an issue with everybody on this table except for Cynthia. Everyone's having an issue with you. For example, Porsha. And then Drew says, well, I don't have an issue with Porsha. She has an issue with me. And Porsha says, no, I don't. I know I overreacted at Shamea's event, but I needed time to process it. But Drew actually thanks Porsha because she has been waiting to hear Porsha acknowledge that, she was wrong in the way she spoke to Drew in that very first episode. And Porsha says, yeah, I don't really have much expectations, though, when it comes to having a friendship with you, like when you accused me of dating Future. And Drew says, well, that was after you accused me of dating Black. And Porsha says that the reason she brought up Black was because if Drew was dating somebody else, it would completely, get rid of the narrative of Drew and Dennis dating or messing with each other. So I kind of get what Porsha is saying, but Drew says, well, listen, if you were emotional about me and Dennis filming or whatever, how do you not expect me to be emotional about you filming with Ralph? How would you feel if people assumed that you and Ralph were sleeping together just because you filmed with him? And Porsha says, well, it's about the way you move. That's the difference. And they sort of go back and forth and back, and then eventually Drew does acknowledge that she could have communicated with Porsha better, and at the end of the day, Dennis had told her that Porsha had given him her blessing, so maybe that's why she didn't do it, but she does acknowledge that she could have communicated it better with Porsha, and Porsha says that she receives it, so hopefully that'll be squashed. Britt says, well, I can't with Britt. She interrupts everyone. She's like, I gotta say something. And here we were all thinking she was going to drop, a bomb or something. But she says, since we are talking about exes and baby daddies and all that, Phaedra, I just want to let you know that Apollo and his wife did go to my event because my husband invited them. I just wanted you to know that. Phaedra didn't care though. She was like, oh, okay. Listen, I can't with Brit. She kind of reminds me of Brittany from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, like interrupting a conversation and say some dumb stuff. But that was the end of the episode. I didn't really like this episode, to be honest with y'all. I'm not a Drew fan at all, as you guys know, but at the same time, I'm also not like, why is everyone coming at Drew? Even though I don't like her, that doesn't mean I want everyone to just attack her for really dumb stuff. I feel like some of the storylines this season have been very, very, like, just dumb and boring. Like, why have we spent 13 weeks talking about Dennis and filming? Like, I'm over, like, Shamea being called a lapdog, and it just seems, like, kind of tired, you know what I'm saying? So, we'll see, because we only have 3 more episodes left before the finale, and then we'll get the reunion. The reunion will be filming this upcoming Thursday, so that'll be interesting. I do think the reunion will be good, only, given the fact that all these episodes have aired. We've had social media things that have been posted and things like that. So, yeah, you guys, let me know what your thoughts were about this episode. Are you Team Drew, or what are y'all thinking? Let me know, you guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a great one. Bye.